Hi, everyone. Welcome to NCL 101. This is everything you need to know about the NCL Games for the spring season. I am your host this evening. I am Mistress Venom. I'm one of the members of the Players Committee, and with me I have two other members of the Players Committee. I have Eric up top, and I have Paul down below. So the agenda we'll be running through this evening is talking through the spring timeline and breaking down what is in each game for the season, talk through the categories, talk a little bit about the scouting report if you're a first timer and you've never had the chance to experience how awesome that is, talk about some of our existing resources, just run through some reminders and some tips for first time players. We'll have some time for some Q&A, and then we'll just do your standard open chat with the Players Committee. Feel free to ask us anything, hang out with us, and have some fun. So that being said, let's hop right into the 2023 spring season. So I don't know if somebody, Paul, if you would like to take this.
Sure. So we've already done the gymnasium and the practice game, right? So we can skip ahead to the individual game. That's the weekend-long competition where you're not allowed to get help from anyone. It's just you. You can Google stuff, but you can't, post questions online about NCL. You can't get help from your professor, and you've got a weekend to solve as many challenges as possible. And the do we call it the team game now?
We do.
Formerly called the postseason. The team game is same idea except, clipping there. Same idea. Same idea, except you are allowed to work with a team. Your entire team has to be registered on NCL, and you work together to solve challenges. If one person enters an answer, it counts toward the entire team. If they enter a wrong answer, it dings the entire team. So make sure you coordinate for that. If you're at a large school with a lot of people participating, you might have to divide up into multiple teams because there's a limit of 7. If you are at a school without many players, you can team up with people from other schools.
And friendly reminder to make sure you set up your team by 11:59 p.m. Eastern on April 13th before the cutoff for the start of team games so that you ensure that you are on a team and ready to play.
Yes. And make sure you choose people for your team with whom you're willing to communicate. Because like I said, if one person enters wrong answers, it counts against the entire team. So if someone uses up all your attempts guessing, tough cookies.
All right, Sean asks, are there more challenges in team game? I think it's about the same.
It's about the same number, but the difficulty is usually significantly higher on average. The most difficult challenges will be more challenging and usually more involved with more steps, like for web application exploitation. There might be more steps you need to follow. It's difficult to get through the whole team game as an individual. You definitely want to team up with people.
Yeah, and some of those challenges are definitely designed for collaboration. And as Paul said, make sure you're good to have team members who you're willing to chat with the entire weekend, because it definitely helps to put your heads together.
You're going to want to delegate.
Yeah.
I do want to add, in case Sean was referring to the practice game, there are more challenges in the individual and team game than the practice game.
Yeah.
But the individual and team have about the same number. A team is harder.
Yeah, you should expect everything to be more interesting than the practice game. There will be more challenges. They might have more nuance to them. The practice game is sort of just a sampler.
James says, last semester I was assigned to one category. Shouldn't I try all of them in team game? So that's a really good question, and it depends on your team strategy and how you and your team work that out. There are some teams where if you have a very strong focus in open source intelligence or in wireless access or web application exploitation, then that is what you will be assigned to focus on. And if that's something that you and your team are comfortable with, that is how your team has set that up. Other times we have seen teams say, okay, we're going to divide and conquer, and each group of 2 people take these 3 categories, but it all depends on exactly how you structure your team and how you decide to delegate that work out.
If you're being especially competitive, if your team has a shot at first place, you will also want to make sure that you double check each other's work before entering any answers. So keep that in mind. If you're being really competitive, there's quite a bit of strategy to deciding who enters the answers and when. Should we go to the next slide? Or are you getting work messages just like me?
Oh, no, I'm not. I was just going to ask a question to our wonderful person running tech.
Popping the Eric question for Eric.
Yes. Thank you.
Hey.
So, Eric asks, will school teams be automatically assigned? Eric?
They are not. So each, and that's being asked to me because I am a coach. So teams are not automatically assigned. Each person has to create their own team. And if you are in a class, like NCL is part of your class assignment, by default, every person is in their own team. So make sure if you're a coach or if you're a student, make sure you do create, each student create their own team. Otherwise, they'll be stuck by themselves for the team game.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a question from Brianna. Brianna asks, I found the attachments impossible to open. Is that because I need Kali? That's a really good question. It depends on what challenge specifically you're referring to. But each person and each player does have their own preferred operating system for the games and what they are attempting to do.
You should not expect to be able to open most attachments by simply double clicking them. You will very often have to open them in a specific way that may or may not be part of the challenge, is figuring out what sort of file you even have.
We have a question from Michael. Michael asks, for the individual game, is 2 days reasonably enough time to complete it if you are reasonably skilled?
You should not expect to complete it. I've gotten first place in the individual game once, but most years I don't complete all of the challenges.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever completed all of the challenges.
Yeah. Usually, most years there will only be a handful of people who complete all of the challenges.
Right, looks like we have one more question before we move forward. And Vince asks, are there any tools that we can't use?
Yeah, generally paid tools. Unless it's very mainstream software, like you can use Microsoft Word, but you can't use some fancy reverse engineering tool that requires a license. Yeah. Just to address one thing that's been showing up in several questions in chat. You don't need Linux and you don't need Kali. I have never used Kali for NCL. It's a common recommendation, especially if you're just getting started. It will take all of the tools and put them in front of you, but you don't need any specific operating system.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Update. I need a new mouse because it just wants to fight me. This is what I get for using a magic mouse. All right, so what topics are covered in NCL and what are the 9 categories? The first of which is open source intelligence, that is utilizing your Google Foo, which I believe answers Matthew's question in chat regarding if we're allowed to use outside sources like Google. Yes, open source intelligence is how to Google well and how to find various bits of information online, and utilizing search engines and those online tools with publicly available resources to your knowledge and to your benefit. And ChatGPT is not permitted.
It isn't?
No.
Oh, even the free version? Oh, like what if you use Bing?
Okay, no. Bing is not a permitted search engine just as a whole.
I feel like that's valid OSINT. Oh, come on.
No.
Plus, it's going to work against you. The last time I tried to use ChatGPT for work, I ended up asking it to write a parody of All Stars by Smash Mouth for Skyrim.
Fair enough. It is definitely great for entertaining things.
I get easily distracted with ChatGPT.
All right. Next category is log analysis. Eric or Paul?
Oh, I can take that one. Log analysis is for those of you who like finding things in a haystack. So you're given usually a file, a text file, and you have to find certain things like how many IP addresses there were, or what's the operating system that was installed. Um, Sometimes it can be specific tool. It could be, for example, like a SQL database or some other sort of specific log that you might find. But usually just some generic, could be an Apache log, a OS log, or anything like that.
All right. Next category is network traffic analysis. Paul?
Let's see. So, network traffic analysis is the Wireshark category. Sorry, I got distracted by chat here. I'm just describing what network traffic analysis is, right?
Yes.
Right?
Okay. So usually you are in the easier challenges, you'll be looking to get some basic information from a packet capture, usually. And for the more difficult challenges, you'll often be looking to figure out how data was exfiltrated or even reassembling transmissions that you might be missing some packets from, or they might be out of order, or there might be some other issues with the capture that you have. And in the team games, network traffic analysis gets tricky.
All right. Next up, we have cryptography. That's using various tools and techniques to either encrypt or unencrypt various messages that are being sent, or that are challenges within the Cyber Skyline platform to get the plain text, or in some cases, the flag for whatever is necessary for that challenge. It's a lot of fun. It has various things like different number bases, and then various cryptographic tools that are great things that you may have been started or may have started to have been taught, or you haven't yet learned, and this is a really great way to learn them. Scanning, Eric or Paul?
So scanning would be, so to answer Aiden's question, is where you might want to use Nmap there for some of the questions. So you're given some services and you have to find, I don't know, like what ports are open, maybe a hidden folder somewhere, or anything along those lines. So you can use Nmap, but make sure you do read the question carefully. There are some questions where there will be a bold text that would say, do not use any automated tools. So if it says that, do not use Nmap or like Derb or any automatic tools that would scan the server for you.
Forensics, Paul?
So the forensics category is relatively new. I don't think I've competed in a season that had the forensics category. So I'm not too familiar with that one.
I can do that one since I've done it. So forensics would be, I mean, I don't know, the name is pretty self-explanatory. Just, you're given a file, you had to find a hidden flag, you had to find a hidden picture, or, find out what happened. Like, could be maybe you get a Git log and you had to figure out, well, who was the user that checked in the malware, or I don't know, those kind of things. There's usually just three questions in here: easy, medium, and hard. Um, so try to do the easy one, see how you like it.
Password cracking. Paul?
This one's fairly straightforward. It's the Hashcat category. Typically, you'll be given a list of password hashes, and as you go along, there may be different aspects to solving the challenge. Some of the easier ones you can enter into online tools like CrackStation or use basic word lists that are common and often included in distributions like Kali. RockU is a popular one. As you get toward more difficult challenges, you'll have to likely start developing your own word lists, start developing your own patterns, and possibly even making scripts that mutate all the entries in the word list in some way. Hashcat, Offcrack, CyberChef, those are all great. CyberChef is more useful in the cryptography category, but seeing those in the comments. Offcrack is great for NTLM hashes, which are Windows specific typically. They're fairly distinct in that they'll often have a colon in them, but that's the one type of hash where I don't use Hashcat.
Enumeration and exploitation. Which, Paul, I think you touched on this a bit already, and I know we have some people in the chat mentioning it, but that is essentially reverse engineering and
Yes.
either... Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Essentially
reverse engineering for the most part.
Yeah. And looking at various either scripts or pieces of code and breaking them down step by step, seeing what they do, and retrieving a flag or a plain text message.
This is one of those categories where you are going to get files that you definitely should not double click. Do not try to open them. And use a virtual machine. Pretend you are being given malware.
Yeah.
I think there was a team game where I think it did something like a countdown after saying it was going to shut down your computer, and then it would actually shut down your computer.
There was also one with, I believe, I think there was one quite a few years ago that had a registry that, yeah, that was interesting. Somebody may or may not have overwritten the registry a couple times before I realized what I was doing.
Use a virtual machine for that category. Pretend it's the real world.
Fair enough. All right, and then last but not least, we have web app security.
Oh, that's my favorite category. You'll be given a website, hack it.
Thanks, Paul.
And if it involves SQL injection, don't drop the tables because you're not getting them back.
Little Bobby drop tables.
Yeah. If you're on a team, make sure everyone knows if you drop the tables, you're not getting them back. Because if one member of the team messes up the database, it's just like the real world. You're not getting that data back.
I would also add, this is where you might want to use burp. I know somebody also questioned about burp earlier.
Yeah.
That might come in handy.
Yeah.
I don't usually use it, but there have been a couple challenges where it just made things easier.
Yeah, and to answer the question that I did see fly by about using Burp Suite, the free version that comes with Kali, should you elect to utilize that, is one that is permitted. Purchasing the $8,000 license is certainly not permitted, and I wouldn't do that.
If you're looking for an alternative, Firefox also has in its inspector, it has a request replay tool that operates similarly to Burp Suite. It's not quite as full featured, but if you're in a rush and you already have Firefox installed, it's pretty useful.
Yeah, and just random nerding out about Firefox. I do love their containerization of tabs and grouping.
Ooh, yes, that is nice. Although it used to crash a lot.
Yes,
but it's gotten better.
Yes. All right. So next up, we've got what are scouting reports? Eric?
Yeah, so at the end of the game, at the end of the competition, so after the team game, you will get a scouting report. If you are playing under like the school paid for your registration fee, I'm not sure if you get it, so you might need to ask your instructor for it. But what the scouting report says is how well you did in the competition. So it would tell you, for crypto, where you rank. Would tell you how many points you got, how much you completed, and then would do that for every other 9 modules we talk about, and then also gives you an overall rank. As you can see here, the scouting reports say that person placed 324th out of 6,000 ish participants. So this is great. You know, it's a few pages long, but I think there's a one page that gives a very good summary. You can always link a scouting report from your resume or even include it as part of your application to any job. And it really stands out, right? So this is showing to your prospective employers that I didn't just sit in class all day and watch cat videos, right? I actually did Wireshark. And guess what? I got, 300 points out of 300 points on the network traffic analysis. So that means I'm great at Wireshark. And this scouting report shows that. And most employers know about NCL. I won't say everybody, but like the big one would know, especially government ones. Um, and I've heard stories of people getting jobs because of scouting reports, right? So I know a lot of you are, some of you might be in college now, starting out. You might not thinking, a few years down the road, but this is very useful. And you can also keep track of it. So you can show that, well, spring 2023, I was placed 324th. Spring or fall 2023, I was, 200. So you can see a progression that you're doing better and better over time.
Yeah, and as somebody who likes to acquire interns, I can say that I definitely love seeing the NCL scouting reports from potential interns. All right, and it looks like we have a clarification that everybody gets the scouting report regardless of whether or not you went through the mass school purchase or you purchased individually on your own. All right, so looks like we've got some time for some questions now. So I'm just going to go bottom up if that's okay. Angela asks, are people that signed up but didn't play included in those statistics?
I don't think they are anymore. It's kind of, in some places you can see the total count, but I don't think they're included in the scouting report. I could be wrong though. The system has changed over time.
I'm trying to mentally do math, and I'm not 100% certain. They are included in the scouting report. Yes.
So the number of places includes people who didn't compete, but it doesn't include the pewter bracket, I assume.
I believe that is correct, because pewter bracket is unranked.
Because it used to be if you didn't participate at all, you would end up in the pewter bracket.
Yes. If you didn't participate in what was formerly the preseason game, which is now the practice game, it is not required.
Okay. So we don't have that method of excluding people anymore.
Correct.
Got it.
Right. And Paul, it looks like you already answered the Linode question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just for people who can't see the chat, I might have scared some people with the don't double click the files thing. None of the files are going to be actual malware. You can safely use a virtual machine. This is a good time to practice running your own virtual machine. You don't need a cloud service. You're not going to benefit from paying for a cloud service. You can use one if you want, but you're probably not going to gain anything. Zach asked, the practice games used to be required. They are now optional. You will get a scouting report even if you did not participate in the practice game.
Derek asks, how will the game be set up? Will it be like the gym and the practice game where we can go to our own category? Yes, it will be set up the same way where you can hop in and out of any of the 9 categories as you wish within the 84 hours of the competition, if I can mentally do math, which I probably can't at this point. But yes, you can hop in and out of any category, any challenge, and then any level within that challenge as you wish. There are a few challenges that are structured where you have to answer question A before B and C, but the majority of them are all there and available right away. Lox asks, we have 3 days. What is important, speed or completion? Does anybody want to take that, or do they want?
So if you want to be ranked higher in the leaderboard, it would be completion. And then the tiebreaker for that will be accuracy.
And then the tiebreaker for that is speed.
Right.
And for the top places, that almost never comes into play. It's usually just completion and accuracy. We've got a few other questions we can probably knock out that are related to this.
Yeah. One of those questions is from Alex, and Alex asks, do we only get one shot at each question?
No, not usually. There is a limited number of attempts per challenge shared across all of the questions in that challenge. It should be on the left-hand side of your screen with a challenge open, sort of centered on the left-hand side. And correct answers count toward attempts. So if there are 5 questions in a challenge and you have 5 attempts left, you'd better get them all right.
Agreed.
A bunch of people are asking about virtual machines and personal computers. Do you mind if I answer a bunch of those?
Right ahead.
So we recommend that you use a virtual machine because that's generally just a good practice. Nothing here is going to wipe your computer. There's an advantage to using a virtual machine over bare metal in that if something goes wrong, it is very easy to reset a virtual machine. It also allows you to quickly switch back and forth between operating systems. I like to do that for different challenges. I have different tools that I use. Some work better on one operating system than another. So I go back and forth. You can definitely use your personal computer to compete. I have always used my personal computer. You don't have to use a virtual machine. It usually makes things a little easier.
I will say that I like to do things primarily from the web, so I will spend a lot of time hunting around for various web-based tools to achieve the correct result or very similar results. Sometimes that is a bit more time intensive and a bit more of a pain in the butt, but I also like the easeability of being able to play the games from my phone or from an
Yeah.
Alexa device or stupid device flavor of the month, just for science.
The one big
Because
exception for me is I like to use Hashcat with an NVIDIA GPU, and that doesn't work too well on Linux. So I'm usually not using a virtual machine for that, and I'm usually using Windows.
right. Jason asks, how does accuracy affect your score if it does at all? So the way that the points break down shows when you are competing during the games is that you have points as the primary score where you will show your place on the leaderboard. After that, it is done by accuracy. So if you have 400 points and 85% accuracy, and there is somebody else who has 400 points and 77% accuracy, you would be ranked above them. If you both had the same accuracy at 80%, then it would come down to the time that you last submitted a correct answer, and whoever submitted sooner would be higher up on the leaderboard. And regarding the question I see from Latifat in chat, can we still work on the gym and practice game as we work on the individual? The gym is open until, double check my sanity, May 27th, 2023 for the spring season. So you are able to pop back into that and in and out of that both during the game and after individual game is closed as you're getting ready to work on team game. And then you can, of course, revisit until just about the end of May. But the practice game ended on March 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern, so that one is no longer accessible. And I see another question regarding teams. Brandon asks, for teams, do we get auto-assigned a team? Do you receive an email? No, you are free to put yourself into teams either with members of your school or using our team search in Discord or Slack to find a team if there is nobody else at your school or university.
You want to tackle with the practice game questions, have the answers reveal? They do not, but we do have a like not a walkthrough, but a ask questions in the Discord channel. Well, I think we do. We used to in the Slack.
Right. The after game debriefs that are done will be done on Discord now, so be sure to join our Discord server, and I will throw the link to that in the chat if you do not already have that. As soon as I find it. Which is a link I appear to have lost. Very sorry. But one of the awesome things that you will see is if you don't set up your team and you don't join a team in time, you'll automatically get put on a solo team after that deadline on April 13th passes. So you are still able to participate as a solo team competing on your own. Chang asks, does the advanced bracket get challenge coins? The answer to that is yes. Right. Matthew asks, what is considered brute forcing versus light fuzzing? Is there a limit on the amount of either brute force attempts or custom lists?
I can answer that because I've opened numerous support tickets about this. If a challenge explicitly says that you can lightly fuzz, there is probably going to be a rate limit enforced by Nginx. If you continually push past that rate limit and disregard it, You'll get 429 errors, most likely. Then you'll get in trouble. If the server starts sending you errors indicating that you are going too fast, you should heed those warnings. Light fuzzing generally means you may fuzz by hand, not automatically. That's probably not something that most players will need to worry about. If you have that question, you are probably on the verge of brute forcing and getting in trouble.
All right, the Discord link is now in the chat. Zach asks, will there be a practice game before the team competition? No, we have one practice game for the season, which is the one that just ended on the 26th of March. But you and your team can choose to practice together in any ways that you see fit. Obviously, not utilizing the individual competition that is for you and for you alone, and you are not permitted to collaborate with the people you will be working with as a team during the individual competition. Right. Graciano asks, what is considered a good placement?
I think it depends about you. If it's your first time, getting a few hundred points, I would say is great. If you're coming back your second season, try to beat your previous point, or maybe try hard question or medium question if you haven't done that before. And if you've been here for a few years, then you already know what you're doing. So
some people also like to focus on a specific category, and they'll rank lower overall. But if your specialty is log analysis and that's all you're interested in, that's perfectly fine. My apologies if there are lots of notifications going off in the background. Everyone who hasn't been working all day on my team suddenly decided to start working right now.
Okay, that's why I'm hearing phantom.
Is that what it is? All right, I can go turn it off.
No, it's totally okay.
I'll mute myself when I'm not talking.
All right, next slide that we have, we're going to talk through some of the resources that we have available to you. As we've mentioned quite a few times, we do have the gymnasium, which is open until May 27th, and that's basically all of the old challenges that are there, and it's available on the Cyber Skyline platform after you have registered for the games, which at this point, I hope that you all have registered for the spring season. If you haven't yet registered, please join us in the fall. But that gymnasium is open from the start to the end of the entire season to give you as much time as possible to practice, hone your skills, learn some new tools, play around, and have some fun while the active games where you are ranked are not going on. Anybody want to talk about the webinars?
Oh, we have webinars. Well, we have one right now. But we do have, I believe it's every Thursday, and I'm going to get the time zone wrong, but around 4 p.m. on my time zone, which could be different, whatever time zone you're in. There's usually like a hands-on walkthrough on how to do X. So I think a couple of weeks ago it was how do you use Wireshark. There was one before that or after that, I get my time mixed up, about finding things in Git, I think. This week is about CyberChef, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of these is plus or minus a month. But if you go to our website, you'll see all the webinars. They're all recorded. You can all watch them on YouTube, and you can catch up on anything that you need to.
Next week's Cyber Skyline Live will be about Uncompile, and the one that Eric just mentioned about CyberChef was last week. So if you haven't already, you should hop over to YouTube or StreamYard to check that out. As we've mentioned, CyberChef is a really powerful tool, and it's a lot of fun to play around with. Yes, and we're getting hyped for CyberChef in chat, which I 100% support.
And the third resource is on Trove. So we do have a few blogs, which can include written guides like how-tos or tutorials on different topics. So we just had one posted, I think, a couple of weeks ago on CyberChef, and we have a few more down the pipeline that's coming up.
Yeah, and these are all available on the resources section of the National Cyber League website for all of the nice and easy links. And thank you, Franz, for linking to the playlist for the other webinars, should anybody wish to check those out, which you totally should. And Trove for the blogs.
Yep, and then to answer Keegan's question, all the webinars posted to the YouTube channel. That is correct.
And yes, that is Franz. Or Franz is secretly a bot. All right, so some of the great things to know as a beginner, or some reminders for people returning this season. If you are returning, welcome back. If you are a beginner, welcome to the party. We're going to have a fun time. So focus on setting personal goals. Really don't stress on comparing yourself to either others at your school or the leaderboard. Set yourself some goals. Say, I'm going to try 3 categories this season. 2 of them will be things that I learned in class. 1 of them will be something very interesting to me. Set yourself those goals and work towards them through the individual game, within the gymnasium, and then within team game if you are working on a team. Points. I know we've touched on this a bit before, but focus on doing your best to score points and work towards getting your answers correct. It is more important to score points than to have high accuracy, as we touched on before. Eric, do you want to talk about notes?
Yeah, create a file with other notes. So this can include tools you use. So if you're participating again next season, you don't have to relearn things. Let's say you found I don't know, some nice filter in Wireshark. You don't have to next season, the same question comes up. You don't have to go and Google how to do that again. Yeah, and then last hint, don't forget take breaks. Eat, sleep. Do your human things. If you're not human, do your non-human things. And one last thing is, if you participate in your first time, just have fun. This is a beginner-friendly competition. So the end goal is that you learn something new.
Yeah, and for those of us who have played in the games, way back when, even nowadays when we still get to play as unranked members who are just here for the fun of it, we're still learning something new every time, and we're having a lot of fun with it. So one of my favorite things to suggest is during the individual game, turn on some music or something that helps you focus that you enjoy, and just make it a little bit more fun. And then also go outside, touch grass, remember that the sun exists too. They're kind of fun things to do for at least 90 seconds.
And I also add for the team game, make sure you use your team. I've seen teams that they all say, well, you're going to do this category, person two is going to go that category, and they don't talk at all. Then you're just becoming like an individual game. There's no fun in that. The part team game is to learn from others. So maybe you got to a question 75% of the way. It helps talking to other people. Sometimes you just have blinders on, or it's like, if you write a paper and you keep reading it, you'll never find any typos. So getting fresh pair of eyes on anything is always good.
I always end up solving the hardest challenges after sleeping. I get stuck, I sleep, I solve them. Also, pizza is a great motivator. Just saying.
Didn't you just say that sleep is for mortals?
I'm immortal.
Oh, okay.
I'm not immortal. I am amortal.
Well, I'm a robot, so I don't sleep. All right. So
I sleep normally when competing.
fair enough. All right. So that being said, we've made it through all the slides. So we'll go through and answer any questions that we haven't yet hit. So if you have any last questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We've got about 10 minutes left of the time here. If you don't have questions, we are free to just hang out, chat. So scrolling through.
Rapid fire questions. Doesn't matter if they've already been asked. There are no stupid questions.
All right, John asks, so let's say you use all your attempts in an easy question, and then you can't proceed to the next question. That module you can't touch anymore?
By question, I mean your number of attempts is limited for a challenge, not a category. So it's divided into categories, and then within categories there are challenges, and within challenges there are questions. I might have the terminology wrong, but it's something like that. Test it out in the gym. Oops, clipping again. Test it out in the gym. See what happens when you run out of attempts. Once you run out of attempts for a challenge, you will not be able to enter any more answers for any of the questions in that challenge. You will need to move to a different challenge in the same category or a different category.
All right.
What great wisdom is on Eric's board? We have to answer that one.
Yes, I also want to know.
There's no great wisdom. This is a list of papers I'm working on. And when they get accepted, I put a smiley face on them. So you can see the red smiley face, that's why. And then the arrows mean the ones I'm working on.
That's a lot of smart.
The wisdom is create a to-do list and reward yourself when you check items off.
I like it. All right. Richard asks, if I do terrible, will my score be publicly available? There is no terrible score. The leaderboard that is shown is the top 100 when you hop in, but that will be available on your score report. I truly believe that there is no terrible score for this. Attempting anything, even if you don't earn any points, which I do believe to be impossible, you are more than welcome to share whatever you are comfortable with. And then, of course, you are able to change your name on the leaderboard if you don't want it to be attributable to you and your full name. I show up in the leaderboard as, or well, I don't show up anymore, but I used to show up as Mr. Venom, which is my handle that I use personally and professionally. But you can always, create blue123 as your handle and use that publicly.
So not unless you make it public. Set whatever alias you want. It doesn't have to be something that identifies you.
Paul says what I was trying to say in one sentence. Yeah. All right. Mario asks, I didn't get to do much of the practice game due to my busy work schedule. Will it be reopened after the season? No, the gym will remain open until May 27th, but the practice game ended on March 26th, and that will not be reopened.
If this is your first time playing, don't worry about it. There's no consequence for messing up in the individual game. The team game's a little different because you can impact your teammates. So you have to make sure you coordinate with the rest of your team. But if you're all new, But no, it won't be reopened.
All right. Michael asks, are there any other sites you recommend like CyberChef? I've seen a couple people mention decode.fr in the chat, but One of my favorite things to do is Google for new crypto websites and just look for various either decoding websites. And that's how I actually stumbled across CyberChef and a different tool that had various number bases that I used before CyberChef. So just Googling around for various tools that will either decode number bases or have the various ciphers already built in is a great way to find other tools similar. And then that also expands to the other 8 categories and finding web-based tools because I hate using actual devices.
If there's one website, it's Google.
Agreed. Right. Joshua asks, there are so many areas of so many areas to focus on in cybersecurity. Where do you start if you're a newbie?
NCL. You get to try everything and decide what you like.
This is true. That's how I figured out I loved offensive security and log analysis, and am now purple.
Yeah. If you're new, just sample each category. Don't worry too much about it. Decide what you like. Take notes. And if anything intrigues you, you can then research it between now and next season.
People just made me way too happy. Scrolling through chat. Stacy asks, is there a huge difference between the gym and the practice games?
The gym includes answers.
Yes. And those reveal solutions, guides, and step-throughs on how to solve various challenges are super handy, especially when I was first playing in the games and they had those available. They're a great reference point to go back to even now in the professional world. So keep those handy. And as Eric mentioned earlier, take notes. And I mean, I've still got notebooks from when I was a competitor that I refer back to as needed.
The next question is, are there any NCL events in the summer? And I think we do not. Although I know this was floated in the coaches at some point, but I don't think we have one this summer.
Occasionally we come up with new events, but at the moment, no. We did have, I think one summer we had some sort of event, but we only did it once, I believe.
Yeah, and Cyber Skyline and National Cyber League do help schools run some summer camps, and they have also done some teaser challenges over the summer. But as a whole, the games themselves take a break in the summer, just like y'all get a summer vacation. Right. Eric asks, I joined late. Tomorrow I have work. Will I be able to enter in the morning and then again when I get back home? Yes, you are able to hop in and out of the games as you wish from 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow to 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday evening. And, as we said, we hope you sleep some point in time in there.
Yeah, we're not going to lock you out. You're hackers anyway. You'd find a way to get in.
But the Cyber Skyline website is out of scope. Don't attempt that.
Yes.
All right. We've got about 2 minutes left. Any last questions? Thank you all so much for hanging out with us for this past hour in your respective time zones. Ooh, Michael comments about pizza and coffee. I have coffee, and I think Eric has pizza.
I usually have both.
Starts at, so Joshua asked, what time does it start again? So tomorrow, Friday, March 31st at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon o'clock.
Central.
Noon p.m.
Noon Central, 11 Mountain, and 10 Pacific. There are a bunch of other time zones that are relevant that I don't know off the top of my head. And then there's Arizona that just kind of doesn't do daylight savings.
Hey, we. Oh yeah, and
And
then
then
there's
there's Hawaii, but you
Yeah.
can do the if you're in Hawaii, you can do the math. What time zone you on?
that's 5 hours behind Eastern. You know what? No, I can't trust myself with the time zone.
All
I
right.
don't even.
How about this? 5 p.m. UTC. Figure it out from there.
You know what? Fair enough.
I hope I did my math right there.
Speaking of time zones,
There's a countdown. You can log in now and look at the competition, and there's a countdown. I'm pretty sure, right? If I go there now,
I believe you are correct.
yeah, it lists the time if you go to cyberskyline.com and log in. For me, it says Friday, March 31st at 1 p.m.
Yes, because you're in the correct time zone.
There's a question from Gio. Is a post-game discussion on Slack or Discord? It will be on Discord, which
Yeah, we've mostly migrated to Discord, which, if you haven't joined it, it's worth joining.
It definitely is worth joining. Feel free to hang out with us. We are all in there as well. And there are hundreds of players in there who are active and very excited to engage with everybody else. And we are building a wonderful community there.
And we geek out over everything that you could possibly geek out over, from bicycle locks to flipper zeros to backpacks to coffee. So
Yep. And we'll be sending out an email after the games are done with the link to the debrief channel.
Don says Discord is not as good as Slack.
So Slack is just professional Discord. Fight me.
Slack drives me nuts. If you have a thread with more than 100 messages, nope,
So hear me out.
it dies.
No. Hear me out. That's when you use Zapier to start posting those things into a separate channel.
Oh no.
This is why I'm not allowed automation things. This right here.
I made the mistake of writing a bot for Slack and had to deal with the API. No. I'm going to go off grid, live in the mountains. I never want to see computers again.
I love anything where I can break an API and then just have the messages no longer post to where they need to go and start blasting everywhere.
My shirt is applicable here.
That's a good classic. Joshua asks if we are posting to YouTube. Josh missed the beginning. Yes, we are. And I will grab the link for that. Also, yes, Don, I agree. Discord thread messages are a mess.
Apparently, I'm blurry now.
You do look a little blurry. Franz asks, what is your favorite music to play when hacking?
Anything metal.
Like infected mushroom type metal or?
Yes, that counts.
Respect. For anybody who's been around on the internet for far too long, there is a Strong Bad System is Down song that is the biggest earworm. But will I play that on repeat? Yes, I will.
Nothing like having someone scream in your ear that you're going insane while you hack.
The system is down. That's going to be stuck in my head for the next 4 hours. Wait, Eric, what's your favorite music?
I don't have one.
What?
I don't listen to too much.
Oh, Grendel's good too. Yeah. That is in my NCL playlist. Remnants by Grendel.
Oh, there was
Origin, death metal. Yeah. Anything that keeps you awake.
I have a cybersecurity playlist on Spotify somewhere. It's got a good portion of this. I don't know where it is, but if I find it, I'll post it in the Discord.
Best part about being an adult is I can spend my money on music.
I thought the best part of being an adult was you can have like fries for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I tried that and it didn't work out very well. My doctor got mad at me.
Same.
Hold on, let's see. Ooh.
What?
Gotta
No.
get the ambiance while you're hacking, you know? Let's see. Here we go.
Are we really gonna battle with lights?
Yeah.
I do realize that y'all could theoretically change the color of my lights, which scares me.
Wasn't there a challenge for that?
Not for my lights.
Well, for a fake smart home thing. Don, we don't really know yet, I think. I'm hoping that we can use the forum system on Discord to get the no answer only methodologies equivalent. But yeah, hopefully we'll see. We'll figure something out because yeah, that's an important aspect of the NCL community is sharing methodologies. So we'll definitely figure something out for that.
Right. Franz is apparently getting takeout tomorrow as per the NCL or the Cyber Skyline tradition of right before they start running away.
All right, what else do we have here? Did we miss any questions while we were going incredibly off topic? It's not that off topic. Music's important. You got to motivate yourself. Yes, I think this will be on YouTube for anyone who's just joining who asked. This is recorded. It will be on YouTube. My messing around with lights is preserved for eternity. Oop. There we go. How much RAM and how many cores do you recommend for a Kali VM? Doesn't matter that much. Try it. If it doesn't work, then figure something else out. I've competed on a Chromebook.
I have competed on an Alexa show. No.
On a what?
Like an Echo show. And I have to mute mine for reasons of now.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to listen.
I see.
But yeah, no, you can compete from anywhere as long as you've got a web browser, and if you can figure out a way to type into that browser, you are golden.
Yeah, if you're using VirtualBox with a Kali VM, if you're on Windows 10 or 11, ideally at least 8 gigabytes, but you can get away with less if you really need to. Really, you want more, but it's pretty common for people not to have more than that. We try not to be hardware constrained. Or we try to make NCL such that you can compete on commodity hardware. I'm afraid to click that link.
Download more RAM? All right. I know
This is how I get hacked.
No. Okay.
I'm going to use an obscure browser that nobody would ever use for this.
Wait. Hold
Safari.
on. Franz, if you wouldn't mind dropping my screen share in there.
Is this one of those zip files that
No, this is downloadmoreram.com. You go here if you want to download like 32 gigs of RAM.
Okay. Select plan.
I want 32 gigs. Here we go.
Connecting to the interwebs.
Retrieving the RAM. And then it downloads the RAM.
And then you get malware?
No. And you click here. Apparently, you get ads. for Taco Bell.
And then you get Rick Astley. I saw Rick Astley earlier. Yeah.
And then you get Rick Roll. Download more RAM is just fun. You can stop sharing now.
I'm going to take notes for April 1st.
That is on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I've done nothing.
What are we doing?
I don't know. This is
All right,
terrible.
audience, what are we doing for April 1st? Mario said, last year I competed with Kali on an old dual-core laptop. Yeah, it works fine.
Yes.
Kali will run on a potato.
It will. It'll also run on like an Etch-a-Sketch with a potato battery.
I used to keep Raspberry Pis in this drawer just for these streams so I could be like, you could compete on this, but I think I gave them away.
Do I have my child? Alexa, I'm about to say, you can technically compete from a doll with a Pi.
I have the weirdest things in my desk.
No, Brianna, unfortunately, download more RAM does not actually give you RAM. It just gives you a free Rickroll. And some nice JavaScript.
Ooh. Challenge coin.
Ooh. I have one of those too. Oh yeah, just in case anybody is curious about the NCL challenge coins, this is upside
A
down.
blurry challenge coin.
Hey, I can focus. Ish. There we go. And then this one is from fall of 2020, and I apparently just don't know which way is up on this camera right now. Also, Paul, this doll does still have a Pi that you could technically play the games from a doll.
Say that again?
Oh, my children have Pis in them. There is the one that looks like me, and then there is the one that people thought looks like me. Shove a Pi in the body of the doll, and battery pack, and you do what you need. It's a great social engineering tool.
Ooh, I found shenanigans.
Ooh,
Guess what that is?
Right. One last question before we wrap for the night. James asks, do you get a coin for completing a challenge? For completing a category. The challenge coins are for the top 500 players, and they will be sent out at the end of the season, or top 500 players in the individual game, excuse me, and they will get sent out after the season wraps. There will be an email call just as a reminder to make sure that you've got your address and everything updated so that people can send those out, and those will get sent out to you if you hit the top 500.
Now, do we know for certain that we're doing that this year? I know in the past we've been uncertain at this point.
Franz said yes and confirmed top 500.
Cool. How many people are competing?
At least 12.
All right, then.
I think we are over 7,000. Franz, feel free to check me if I'm wrong.
Over 6,000 in the practice game. So yeah.
Yep.
All right. I feel like we should wrap up before we lose steam.
Yes. And the final count is around 7,800 players this season.
Nice.
So we are growing and growing. And Shari, don't give up on yourself. Took me a while to break that top 500, and at the time they weren't doing coins, but you can do it, and I would honestly say don't give up. This is honestly one of my favorite little fidget toys now.
A top 500 is pretty high up there. I would venture to guess that most people never break top 500, but if you really set your mind to it, you can do it.
You can certainly do it. All right, but thank you all so much for hanging out with all of us. I have been your chaotic host, Mistress Venom. We hope you enjoyed your stay at Casa Now Blue. And then we have Eric and Paul. If y'all want to say goodbye.
Adios.
Bye.